I'm Holly.
Hi, I'm Snyder. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How did you find getting to the room today?
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging, but I mean, I made it here in the end, so that's good.
Good. No, that's really good. I just wanted to tell you that the research today is just a little bit about sports participation and specifically a little bit about your experience with team sport participation. There's sort of no right or wrong answers, so just feel free to share your sort of thoughts on that one. I will be recording today. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Alright, I'm just going to press record now.
Yeah.
Alright. And also, did you have a copy of the consent form that I sent you via email?
Yes, just over here, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all signed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Excellent. Well, my first question today is in regards to why you decided to participate in the research.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, what was your pull to come and answer some questions?
Yeah, so I saw the, I guess you could say the notice out on the board just a few weeks ago, and it was something that I was sort of interested in just because of the fact that I am a little bit involved, or I was involved in like netball and that being a team sport, but also I have quite a few family members and things like that, and who are also involved in team sports as well. So that's sort of what pulled me towards your research.
No worries. So you're saying that your parents and your family were quite involved in sport. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so essentially me and all my family members are just quite, I guess you could say, inclined with playing team sports. My parents both of them grew up playing team sports in high school and university, and later on in life as well. And just as a family unit, we would play sports on a weekly basis. So at that time, when all this was happening, we were living in the Middle East, and so the consensus was just generally and a lot of family units did this as well, is go to work, come home, and then go to the local sports and recreation centre once or twice a week, just to exercise a little bit, get fit, but also get that team sports involvement in. So both my parents were both quite actively involved in that, and I guess seeing that maybe made me want to participate in team sports.
Okay, so it was sort of high value, important to your family, important to your culture. How do you think sort of moving cultures, and how do you think that sort of transferred across?
I think transferred across quite well, because as you know, Australia is quite a values sports to a very high regard, and so to go from a situation where we'd be playing sports on a regular basis to coming to a country like Australia and playing sports as well, and it to have the same sort of regard and even accessibility to get involved, join a team and things like that was good to see as well. So I think the transition was sort of smooth, but also at the same time, I guess you could say not as smooth, just because different cultures have different sports as well. I know for my mum, she was involved in a sport that was specific to, I don't know, maybe Middle Eastern culture. The sport is known as throwball, very similar to volleyball, and that's not something that was really catered for in Australia. But I think over time we've seen sporting culture progress and that sort of thing. So
okay, so that's been such a huge part of your life since you were young. How do you feel playing in a team sport has helped you become the person you are today?
I think team sports have helped me in a few different areas. It's socially, developmentally, physically, those kinds of things. I think socially, it teaches you values of teamwork, being aware of other people, making friends, and being involved in working together in a collaborative team setting. Developmentally, I think it's really important for kids to be involved in team sports, just because of the fact that it holds lots of values that you need in day-to-day life and in you know, the future and things like that.
Yeah.
But also the fact that like you know, like sports is good for, I've seen and I know, I feel like sports is good for like cognitive health and development and things like that. So yeah.
Wow. So there's a wide range of areas that playing a team sport you believe has sort of helped you. What about your sort of peer group? Do you feel that they would feel similarly, and how do you think sport has affected others in your peer group?
Yeah, I think sport in general is quite of a high regard in my friendship group.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think sports participation, team sport participation is.
Okay.
I know for myself personally, it is very difficult to find the time to, you know, all work together to meet up and work on, like, you know, training and then the game and things like that, sometimes being 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you know, activities that help you get your health and fitness and general well-being up, like, you know, going to the gym or participating in a class and things like that, I think are more common in people in my age group and category.
Okay.
It's just because it is a little bit more accessible and easier to go to, and easier to organise and arrange as well.
Okay, yeah, I see. So that's actually great, because I've got another question for you in terms of how you see sort of sport culture and team participation changing in the future, and do you see, sort of like you mentioned, that sort of decreasing in your peer group, how do you see it changing overall?
Yeah, that's I'm kind of like on the fence with this question, just because I know in my peer group I can sort of see it declining, and I can see the rise more towards, like, you know, I guess like I said before, those solo sports. But I think as a whole, in a younger generation, or when you are younger, those sports are very important. And also in the, I guess, for people who are older than you, like let's just say my parents, for example, sports in that sense are good for like social interactions and things like that. I think for the people in my age category, university students alike, it is a matter of convenience and a matter of what suits us the best at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think a lot of my friends and myself would have loved to be involved in team sports. It's just time is a big factor.
Time is a big factor. Well, my last question is again in regards to change, and because you've had a cross-cultural change in your life, how do you see the rise in multiculturalism affecting perhaps sporting culture now and in the future for Australia?
I definitely, I hope to see it change in a way that it benefits people and everyone. Just because I've seen it, I guess, also in my family, and the fact that my mum, used to participate in a sport that was really only available in the Middle East. And as people have migrated from the Middle East to Australia, they have been able to participate in that sport here because they have enough people to create teams and to, have, rent out a space in which they can play that sport on a regular basis. So I think that's good to see, and that's, I guess you could say, like a living day example of how that's put into play. But I really do hope that it is progressing and it works towards that way, just because I see the cross-cultural sports participation really being good for different cultures, being involved in different sports that maybe you might have otherwise not known about. So I think that's good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So just to summarise what we talked about today, you've talked about how crossing cultures and the effect being so heavily involved in sport helped you to sort of settle in Australia, how you see it changing in terms of your peer group and perhaps a decline in being able to play in team sports due to time. And then lastly, you sort of finished off talking about multiculturalism and how that will hopefully be progressive in adding to the body of sport that we have in Australia.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions before we finish today?
No, and I think you summarised that up perfectly.
Okay. I'm just going to switch the recording off.
Thank you.